Andrea Miller, she was just appointed by the governor and lieutenant governor. She hosts a podcast called The Wake Up Stories that helps people recognize and address unconscious bias. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
Can we start right there? What is unconscious bias when it comes to equity and diversity, and do we all have it?
Absolutely. So unconscious bias is really those seeds that have been planted into our subconscious mind from the time that we were kids about our community based on movies that we've watched, TV shows, the news, even what we've learned in school. So we've been planted seeds, and really some stereotypical, on how people should look, act, behave based on how they look, act, and behave. And so it all gets seeded into our subconscious mind, and before we know it, it drives our feeling and our emotion, and we don't even realize it. So,
and if it was planted decades ago,
right,
growing up, do we still carry that into adulthood?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even if we think, no, I'm more informed now, I'm different. We still have those.
We still have it, because until you can wake up to what's been planted and get control of those feelings. So if someone walks in, let's say they're in baggy jeans and a hoodie, we've seen pop culture typically paint that person as a thug, the bad guy, a villain, right? So if they walked in right now, we would have an emotional response of, what are they doing here? They're not dressed like we are. Are they in the wrong place? All of that is just simply unconscious bias. And then it might take a minute for you to say, oh, that's just a friend, or he's not a threat at all. But your initial feeling comes from that bias that's been planted.
How do we change that?
So we start with really just conversations, right? Talking about it, really leaning into some of those uncomfortable conversations when it comes to race, the LGBTQ community, women's rights. It starts with conversation and really taking a look at our history.
I like that you said the word uncomfortable, because it is for a lot of people.
It is very
uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable space. Does it get easier the more we talk about it? How's our state doing when it comes to diversity and inclusion?
So I believe it does get easier, like anything else. It could still be very uncomfortable, but I am so proud to be in the great state of Utah right now. So the last thing that Governor Herbert did on his way out was create that diversity compact. And then we see Spencer Cox come in, he and Lieutenant Governor Henderson, and one of their 5 pillars with their roadmap for One Utah, there's a section for equity and opportunity, which is what I helped create some of those policies for.
And so what are those policies? What differences will we see?
So really what we're looking at is bridging the gap between our underserved communities, people of color, women and disabilities, people in low socioeconomic status or situations, to bridge that gap and give them equal opportunity and access to rise up and create the life that they want.
What will you be doing with that going forward?
Yeah, so moving forward, I'm looking to get recommissioned, fingers crossed. So I helped with the transition team, but really what I'm doing is bridging the gap between policy and people. Because when we look at what our leaders are doing in the state, they've given us these policies, and then you think, okay, how does that affect me? How does that affect you, our kids, our community? And so what I'm doing is going in and teaching how to take those policies and have those uncomfortable conversations to bridge the gap between policy and people and just create a more equitable environment.
Andrea, what can I do, what can our viewers watching do today to be better?
You know, the first thing starts with education, right? If we want to wake up to unconscious bias, we have to first recognize it. You can do things like follow my podcast, Wake Up Stories, where you get personal stories of people who've experienced bias, or they've woken up to it and become advocates, right? Read a book. Follow people that you don't agree with. Like, come outside of that tribalism mentality and really look at people for who they are and look at their history, read, and then build relationships. We can all volunteer in a community that's outside of where we are and befriend people and build relationships, and that's really where it starts.
Don't just say it, do it.
Yeah, don't just say it, do it. I hate trying. I'm like, dude,
I hate that
don't
word
try,
too.
do.
Get it done. I want to listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
If you do too, everybody, thewakeupstories.com. That's the website. You're also on Instagram. You can see that handle right there. Go to abc4.com/GTU. Andrea DeMille, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
Okay. We loved having you. Up next, everybody, some of the most popular apps on the rise this year. Brian, what else?
And then still ahead, caring for the well-being of Utah's fighter wings. Carol, this month's Community Advocate supports the mental health of some of Utah's most important pilots. Then casual and comfortable. Get a sneak peek at some of this spring's hottest fashion trends.